Hello, this is Stories for Kids with Morel, and today's story is a bunny tale. Bunny tale. Yes, it's about a rabbit. And I have my story bell. And again, and again. Yeah, I have my story bell with me, and I also have Birdie who's come in to listen to the story. Hello, Birdie. Okay, fine. All right, let me begin with Bunny Tale. Was someone knocking on the door of Uncle Lucky's little white house on the corner of Lettuce Avenue and Carrot Street, Rabbitville? Well, I guess yes. 3 times. Maybe somebody has been knocking ever since Bobby Redvest told me that a bad attack of rheumatism prevents the dear old gentleman rabbit from hearing unpleasant news. Well, anyway, when Uncle Lucky opened the door, who do you think was standing on the mat? Oh, you'd never guess. Not even if I told you he wore rubber boots and held a green umbrella in his hand. It was Daddy Longlegs. Yes, that's who it was. Goodness gracious me, boss, exclaimed the old gentleman rabbit. Are you wet? Soaked to the skin, replied the shivering, rubber-booted, long-legged insect. Let me sit by the kitchen stove and warm myself. Maybe I'll get dry in an hour or so. Oh, come right in, cried dear, kind Uncle Lucky, leading the way into the kitchen where little Miss Mousie, the dear old gentleman's rabbit's tiny housekeeper, was drying the breakfast dishes. Oh, sunny days, so sweet and warm. I miss you very much. I only hope the rheumatism my little toe won't touch, sang Uncle Lucky, helping Daddy Longlegs pull off his rubber boots. Oh, perhaps we should sing it. Oh, sunny days, so sweet and warm, I miss you very much. I only hope the rheumatism my little toe won't touch. Ha ha, laughed the old gentleman insect, stretching out his cold, damp toes. I love the cheerful kitchen fire, and though it is so kind to warm my frozen tippy toes, I'm always cold behind. Turn around once in a while, replied Uncle Lucky. That's what I do. Don't set your coat tails on fire, advised little Miss Mousie as she nibbled a piece of angel cake. Pretty soon, the old red rooster came in with the Bunny Bridge Bulge, the nice morning paper that dear Uncle Lucky loves to read when breakfast is over. Taking out a cabbage leaf cigar, he slipped his feet into his comfortable woolen slippers and, placing his gold-rimmed spectacles on his nose, sat down in his big armchair. Pitter-patter went the rain on the misty window pane, while the fire's cheerful glow warmed his poor rheumatic toe. By this time, Daddy Longlegs was nice and dry so he too sat down to read by the fire. And little Miss Mousie, seeing that nobody wished to talk, scampered back to her little house in the corner of the sitting room. As for the old red rooster, he hurried out to the barn to mend the old wheelbarrow. Pitter-patter sings the rain in the drowsy soft refrain. Tick-a-tack on the leaves, dripping, dripping from the eaves. Tinkle, tinkle on the pane, rings the wind-blown summer rain. Pretty soon, Uncle Lucky fell asleep, and when he woke up, Mr. Merry Sun was shining, and Daddy Longlegs had gone. Oh dear, and oh dear, sighed dear Uncle Lucky, taking out his gold watch and chain. I wonder what time it is. Then he sighed again and looked out of the window. But the postman wasn't in sight. Only the old red rooster raking up the leaves. Well, 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 sighed lonely Uncle Lucky for the third time. What shall I do? Sing a song, suggested little Miss Mousie, peeking out of her small front door in the far corner of the sitting room. Sing us 2 songs, shouted the old red rooster through the open window. So down at the piano sat kind Uncle Lucky, and after running his paws over the keys, commenced. When I was young and 20, and my hair was curly brown, I loved a lady bunny, the sweetest in the town. One day I bought a ringlet at the 3-in-1 cent store, and then that eve I called on her and placed it on her paw. But oh, the years have flown since then, way back in '63, and only my old wedding hat is left to lonely me. Then up jumped dear, tender-hearted Uncle Lucky, and wiping the tears in his left eye, took down his old wedding stovepipe hat and carefully dusted it off with his blue silk polka dot handkerchief. All of a sudden, the telephone bell began to ring. "Who's calling me?" inquired the old gentleman bunny, taking down the receiver and holding it up to his left ear. "Oh, it's you, is it?" he said the next moment. "Well, I don't want to talk to you. No, I don't. You make me cross." And with that, Uncle Lucky hung up the receiver and hopped back to his big, comfortable armchair. "Who was it?" asked little Miss Mousie, running across the floor to the piano stool, up which she climbed. Then, smoothing her bobbed hair, she smiled sweetly at the old gentleman bunny. "Chatterbox, the red squirrel," answered Uncle Lucky. "He has a funny story to tell me, but my rheumatism won't listen to anything, so I excuse myself. Dear me, oh, how my little left hind toe aches. I must be careful, or I'll be full of crossness." "You'll never be full of anything but kindness," replied little Miss Mousie, arranging the cushions in the big armchair. And she spoke the truth. Don't you think so, dear little girls and boys? Don't you think so? But poor Uncle Lucky couldn't fall asleep again, nor could he eat the nice luncheon which little Miss Mousie brought in on a silver tray. By and by, after smoking a cabbage leaf cigar, he said with a sigh, "I guess I'll play a tune. Maybe I'll sing another song." And hopping over to the piano, he turned the little stool around 3 times and a half and commenced to sing. When she was only sweet 16, I loved a little rabbit queen. Her eyes were pink as any rose, and even pinker was her nose, and pinker far her ears inside. And when she said she'd be my bride, I bought a lovely wedding ring, and we were married in the spring. Hey ho, how the years go, sighed the old gentleman rabbit. And taking out his gold watch and chain, he suddenly exclaimed, "Goodness gracious me, Bus, it's almost time for the wedding." Quickly, putting on his old wedding stovepipe hat, he hopped out of his little house. You see, his dear bunny niece, pretty lady love, had decided to get married and settle down in the old bramble patch. Perhaps that's why Uncle Lucky sang the song about the pretty rabbit queen. And now, I'll tell you about the wedding. All the shady forest folk were there, of course, and so were the sunny meadow people. Old Mrs. Bunny had put her house in apple pie order, and after the wedding in the shady forest, and Parson Owl had given Lady Love the pretty little Lady Bunny to Mr. Rabbit to care for all the rest of his life, everybody started back to the old bramble patch. Goodness me, it was a long procession. Squirrel Nutcracker, the big brown bear, Granddaddy Bullfrog, Grandmother Magpie, Busy Beaver, Sammy Skunk, the old brown horse, Mrs. Grouse, Chippy Chipmunk, the stagecoach dog, the old red rooster, the yellow dog tramp, the policeman dog, old Barney Owl, the circus elephant, the sure-footed little mountain goat, and all the barnyard folk. Everybody was anxious to see the little house that dear Uncle Lucky had built for Lady Love. Well, when they all reached the old bramble patch, there stood dear Uncle Lucky on the front porch, his old wedding stovepipe hat in his front paw, and his big diamond horseshoe pin in his pink cravat. Oh, yes, sir, there he stood, bowing and smiling just as if he were his own wedding day and not somebody else's, as Mr. Rabbit and Lady Love hopped up the path and into the house to stand under a big horseshoe wreath of clover and shake hands with all their friends. Just as everybody had finished looking at the wedding presents, and dear Uncle Lucky was saying, "Bless you, my children," Danny Fox peeped into the window and shouted, "Don't be frightened. Here's a diamond necklace for Lady Love." Then away he ran, knowing that nobody wanted him around, for he's a dreadful robber, you know. And robbers aren't invited to a wedding. They come later. At last, when the lollipop juice was all gone, and the grasshopper orchestra tired of playing, somebody called on Uncle Lucky for a song. "My dear old wedding hat, I've worn for 40 years. I've smiled and laughed beneath its brim, and sometimes shed a tear. But oh, it hardly seems to me it was way back in 63. I wore it on my wedding day, when I was frisky, young, and gay," sang the old gentleman rabbit, wiping a tear from his left eye with his blue silk polka dot handkerchief. Then, kissing the bride goodbye, he stopped for a moment to hang up an old horseshoe on the front porch, and then led the guests away, leaving pretty Lady Love and Mr. Rabbit to fill the little white bungalow with happiness in the years to come. By and by, a little rabbit boy came to make their dream come true. As soon as the glad news was telephoned to dear Uncle Lucky, the happy old gentleman rabbit hopped into his lucky mobile and started off as fast as a comet for the little white bungalow. All the way over he honked the horn to bring out all the shady forest folk from their tree houses and burrows. "What's the matter?" asked Squirrel Nutcracker from his old tree lodge. "Lady Love has a little boy rabbit," answered Uncle Lucky. "What's all the noise about?" inquired Busy Beaver, swimming up to the bank of the shady forest pool. "Lady Love has a little rabbit boy," answered Uncle Lucky. "Stop blowing that horn," snapped Grandmother Magpie from her perch in the tall pine tree. "Not for a minute," shouted back dear Uncle Lucky. "Lady Love has a little boy rabbit." "Are you going crazy?" asked the big brown bear as the lucky mobile whizzed by the cozy cave. "No, I'm going to see my little grandnephew," answered Uncle Lucky. "Lady Love has a baby rabbit." "You'll wake up my babies," cried Mrs. Bobby Redvest, as the lucky mobile rushed past the apple orchard. "Never mind," shouted back Uncle Lucky. "Tell 'em there's a new baby at the old bramble patch. Lady Love has a little boy rabbit." "Goodness me, what a noise!" croaked Granddaddy Bullfrog, as Uncle Lucky circled the old duck pond. "Has the old gentleman rabbit lost his wits?" "Not yet," answered dear Uncle Lucky. "I'm off for the old bramble patch to see Lady Love's little boy rabbit. He just came today." Where are you going? Asked Chippy Chipmunk as Uncle Lucky sped by the old chestnut tree. To see little Jack Rabbit, Lady Love's baby, answered the old gentleman rabbit. And so it went. Everybody wanted to know what was the matter. And when Uncle Lucky finally reached the dear old bramble patch, he had told the glad news to every single solitary person in the shady forest and sunny meadow. Oh, wonderful story. Wonderful story, I'm sure. I hope you enjoy the story. And Birdie, did you enjoy the story? Yeah? Is that yes? Okay, fine. I'll take that to be a yes. Join me. That's the end of this story. But do join me. Do join me for the next story. Join me, listen out for the next video, the next story. I'll see you then. All right, take care. Be good. Okay, I'll be back soon. All right, bye-bye. Morel saying bye-bye for now. Bye.